There, so I thought today we should have a quick look at the Battlefield 5 interface. And this is the landing screen, basically the screen you get when you start the game. Now this game got some criticism when it was released, mainly because of its unclear use of screen spaces and too many sub-menus essentially. So we can have a look at these menus. So we can start with this row of graphical links. The problem with this row, or one problem this row will have, is that it does not clearly explain to the player what this particular screen space is meant to be used for. Like the function and the convenience these graphical links give to the user is not explicitly explained to the user. Or we can probably take it a bit further back and think about how we write papers. So when you write a paper on something, you would usually include a heading over some paragraphs, and what this heading really does is that it conveys to the reader what the coming content is about. And when the reader can kind of foresee what the coming content is about, the brain can prepare itself and try to associate the coming text to existing schemata in his brain, so basically chunks of memory. And when he can do this, it's easier to process the information that comes in and compare it to what is already known and memorize it this way. We do similar things with graphical interfaces. We want to explain to the user what this screen space is about, so they understand how this can be an utility in achieving the task they set up to do in the first place. So if this graphical links row is not explicitly explain to the player that this is why these links are convenient and this is the links you will find in this row, the chances that the user starts using this row is less. So we can have a quick look at what the contents of this row is. So the first graphical link is supposedly to be a shortcut to a menu where you can see weekly missions and so on. This is not very clearly. Can you hear the fire alarm? It goes up every Sunday at 12 here. I don't know if you can hear it. So yeah, this link will not be as very effective for new players especially, and maybe even seasoned players, because it does not efficiently convey where it leads to and what the benefit is there. I mean, I know this now, maybe I will click it because I've played the game a bunch the last week or so. But the weekly mission text at the bottom here is very hidden. It could be made more explicitly shown, and then new players probably see the weekly missions more clearly, and then would probably click on the link more often. The next referral link is a time constraint, or it has a time constraint to it. It also has some currencies associated to it. So this is a shop item. And next to it, we have the upgrade to Definitive Edition. And this again is a shop item. But the Definitive Edition is basically a meta purchase. So it's something you add to the game as a whole. This one is a micro purchase or microtransaction. Different things. So these two are surely in the same category. They have a commercial sense to them. This one does not. This is more about the progression of the player through the unlocking and rewards, basically. We can go further, and then again we see a call to play a game mode, and then we have the next unlock for a certain weapon that the player uses. So this row tries to fulfill two different roles. It wants to sell the user items, or inform these are new items you can purchase, and then it wants to be a form of throwing the player into a certain game mode very quickly, and then it's the unlock for or the progression for certain weapons they're using. The problem with this bar is that it tries to convey too many things or play too many roles. It has 3 roles, and it cannot do any of these really good because these different links are currently pushing each other out of the screen too much. I'm sure many players are more interested in seeing the next unlock in the front, then they are interested in seeing this upgrade to Definitive Edition link. So this bar currently does a pretty poor job in fulfilling these roles that it tries to have. So ideally these will be split up into different rows, or they would be moved to take up different portions of the screen. So moving on, we can have a look at the links in the column, in the navigation column on the left. Again, we have the weekly missions. These lead to the same place, and that's fine. We also have, I've looked around in this menu for a bit, so I'm gonna just do this in a very unnatural way. I will just navigate to where I know stuff are. So the daily orders are under the assignment. An assignment is basically where you pick up missions which are, or assignments which are not time constraints. But the daily orders are hidden under this screen, or it's inside the screen. So you have the weekly missions, which are time constrained, and then to get the daily missions, you have to go into the assignments and then to another tab. This is also, again, not a very ideal way of hiding this menu. However, if you go to the play menu, you also have the daily orders on the right column over there, and that's pretty good. However, if the player goes to the storyline mode and he starts at a match from this place, he will never get to see what the daily orders are. He either has to go to the play menu and see them here, and then he has another link to go back to the Tides of War, or he can go back yeah, so he can get them here or go back to the assignments into the daily orders and then go back again and go to the weekly missions. So it's the daily missions are not, or the daily orders are not placed conveniently in every window where the player can access the game modes itself. But this is overall a pretty useful column. You have the Tides of War missions flashing by, and you cannot switch these. Maybe this would be good to be able to switch these faster by the user. And also maybe we could rearrange some stuff. Maybe we can make the daily orders horizontally aligned, and then we would have more space for the Tides of War, and also maybe we would have more space to show what the special assignments are, because now I have to click it to see what the objectives are. But it's really good that you can access the special assignments here and then assign new ones. So next we can look at the multiplayer games, and basically you get a column of game modes here, and then you have some prioritized graphical links in the center. So some game modes are down prioritized, and there's not a lot of information about what they are. You basically have to go into it, and then you only get text, and maybe it would be better to visually explain what the game modes are about, because I don't really want to sit and read a bunch of text at this point. I just want to find a game mode. I want to play the game. So what this menu fails a bit in doing is to make the various game modes appealing. I don't know why I would want to click the breakthrough link here, because it's not presented fairly, and I basically have to click into it to basically read about it, and I don't want to read about it. I just want to know what the game mode is about. Maybe if the player opens the game for the first time, maybe they get a video. Sometimes they get a video about the game modes. Maybe it's there, and I just don't get it right now. But still, some game modes are presented in a way more attractive way than others. And there can be different reasons for this. Maybe this is beneficial for DICE, maybe not. Maybe this is beneficial for the player, that it gives them less choices, and then it becomes easier to pick, basically. So there can be benefits to this as well. But in the end, it will probably lead to that the breakthrough game mode, Pacific War, the Pacific War is there, Outpost, is a bit overlooked. And also the differences between a strategic conquest mode, which is warfare on massive scale, capture and hold objectives, the classic game battlefield mode, and then you have the tactical conquest, which is hold flags, it's your capture and hold as well. So these hold the majority of flags and limit and reduce. It's not very well explained what the differences between these game modes are. So another criticism that's worth mentioning is that there are inconsistent use of terms for the links here. So here it's called Tides of War. In the main menu it's called weekly missions, or what it was. I think it was weekly missions. So there are some inconsistencies. Also, I cannot set my own assignments during playing the game. I have to go back to the main menu to actually do this, and that's not quite ideal. It would probably be good to be able to change these during gameplay. Also, some criticism that can be worth mentioning is that the redeploy option, which is basically a way of changing player states between playing in the battlefield and then going to the redeploy menu. These are sort of mixed together with all the other social links, and also the progression links options, and it has this okay, so squad, social, game information, all these are kind of mixed together, and maybe it would be more ideal to have the redeploy specifically to more present somewhere and more available and visible. See, I'm thinking I'm just gonna leave the game before my teammates become pissed at me. So when you exit the game, this is the menu you get to, and this is probably not ideal because I probably don't want to start a new game once I leave one. And I probably don't want to be on this menu either, and probably not this menu either. But I probably want to come to the main menu where I want to access my company, so I can look at the unlocks I've had, or maybe go to the armory to buy new stuff, or change the assignments because I cannot change the assignments in the game itself. So maybe a more ideal destination to get to would be this menu after I leave a game. Also, we can have a look at the company page. One thing I noticed immediately is that the way to change the class is moved on the screen. In this screen it's in the top left, but if I go into a class, the way I have to switch is at the bottom. Not quite ideal because it changes the location on the screen just between two screens, and it basically has the same functionality, but it has completely changed space. Also, yes, basically, if they were still up here, I would also have everything in one place. Now I have to move the screen, or sorry, the mouse around the screen a lot. And that's quite not ideal. It probably would be better to have everything up here somewhere. Also, there's some problems with how the information reaches the user. If I want to see the stats of a gun, I have to go into this menu, and then maybe this hot swapping option is not that ideal because I cannot see the stats. So if the information about the stats of the gun was in this menu, maybe this would be more useful, because right now I have to access this menu anyway. Also, it seems that the weapon selection is tied to the combat role, and I can definitely see why this would be done, because maybe the combat roles promotes certain ways of playing the game. And right now I'm a bit confused as to exactly how the selections... I mean, I guess all nations use all the same guns. So there's the combat role also. So, okay, so in many games right now you're able to have these presets, right? You have maybe 5 presets you can use, and then you can configure your character or the equipment to these presets. Maybe this will be a better system than putting the weapons you use to the combat roles, because maybe you want to easily switch between certain weapons, but you want to keep the same combat role. So if I want to use all the weapon configs I'm using on the combat medic, I want to use this with the field medic, I now have to reconfigure all this. And it doesn't seem to be any difference regarding what nations I'm picking. The only thing that changes is the appearance. The appearance is not tied to the combat role, it's tied to the nationality. So currently, in my opinion, the way the column works now is that it becomes a bit confusing how the equipment you have chosen is tied to which configuration. So the player has to mess around with the menus a lot, or the options a lot, to understand how these correlate. Like, are weapon selection tied to a nation? And it seems to be not. And then they have to mess around with combat role, and then they have to eventually figure out that the weapons are kind of tied to what combat role they're using. And then, yeah, I guess maybe if the nationality and appearance is the one that's related to each other, maybe move them to another part of the screen together, move them to some other screen space. Then it would be more clear that the combat role and the weapons you have chosen are also related closer to each other. So basically, the relation of the graphical elements are a bit unclear when they are just put together like this. So if the classes was put on top, the nationality and appearance maybe put to another spot, then it would be a lot easier to switch between the classes up here, and then switch the combat role, and then switch the weapon types. But again, I would also like some information on the statistics. And also, again, maybe a small button here to access the specialization, and a small button to access the customization. And then also you wouldn't have to have this weird replace weapon menu. But I get why this is also done, because this also has to work on consoles. And then for consoles this may be maybe or maybe not, maybe it's easier to do it like this, so you don't have to move your cursor to your pointer basically for the consoles to smaller buttons on the side. For consoles maybe this is a better option. For the PC with a traditional mouse pointer, this is not a good system. It's not a good hierarchy. Thanks for watching. This was just a quick run through, and I think this is the type of format I will be using for this YouTube channel going forward, because I can basically fit it into my schedule. Alright, so thanks for reaching this far, and then if you have some other thoughts on how this menu system works, if I had some wrong, if you disagree, think I had some wrong opinions about the menu, please let me know. I like having discussions, I like to be proven wrong. So thank you, and see you in the next one.